Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. A real pleasure for me to introduce you tonight, two young guys who are really trying to change the world. I want to introduce you, first of all, to Jordan, who's tackling social media and the mental health crisis as a co-founder and the executive director of something called the Social Reset. After running several successful Instagram communities that he had grown to over 300,000 followers, he decided to channel his entrepreneurial energy and developed awareness of the social media crisis towards a solution. And it's a not-for-profit. Jordan, what's your last name?
Jordan Wiener.
Jordan Wiener. I apologize. I have Jordan W on my screen, but no last name. I apologize for that.
Yes, no worries.
I also want to introduce you to Jake. But Jake, I do have his last name, Jake Bradshaw, even though he's got he and him on his Zoom title. But Jake Bradshaw lives in Toronto, is a recent graduate of Queen's University, where he studied politics, philosophy, and economics. Ever since his own struggle with depression and anxiety, he has been passionate about mental health advocacy. He's advocated for mental health through public speaking, writing, and community organizing alongside a variety of organizations. He recently also co-founded the Social Reset, an organization that is working to address the mental health crisis by helping young Canadians cultivate healthy relationships with social media. Guys, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Doing great. Thanks for having us on.
My pleasure. So, Jordan W., maybe let's start with you. Why did you start this organization?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to take it back about a year and a half ago now. I'd personally never been a big fan user of social media. I ended up on one of the platforms out of some traveling convenience. It was easy to share pictures on there with friends. Fast forward a year of using that platform, I slowly realized I was doing it very passively and in a very unintentional way. And I didn't enjoy my time on there, and it just started taking up more and more of my time. So in realizing this and discussing this with a friend in June 2020, we both made a pact to delete all of our social media. And we set to do that in October and Thanksgiving. Right after that call ended, I looked at myself and I said, why is this going to take me 5 months to delete my social media? And that feels like the problem here. So I looked at myself. I said, I don't want to be reliant and dependent on these platforms. I don't want to feel like I have to take 5 months to delete these. And I deleted them right there and then. Instantly, it was a weight off my shoulders. I felt all of these anxieties that I didn't know I was carrying relieved, and it was a great experience. And it timed up really well with Netflix's documentary that was released, The Social Dilemma, and this was released in September of 2020. This started a global conversation about the social media health crisis or mental health crisis. And I started having friends that had known that I had deleted social media reach out to me and start asking me, how is it being off social media? I don't like being on social media. It's affecting my mental health. I feel like I'm wasting my time on here. How do I get off these platforms? So I'd speak to them for an hour, 2 hours, and follow up with them a month later. And they're still on the platforms, or they're struggling to delete these platforms and weren't able to do it. And if anything, they were using the platforms more than they had before. So everyone had seen this documentary, realized how detrimental it was to their mental health, and people reflected on watching this, but were left without the action steps. So the Social Reset is a not-for-profit that is targeted at closing the gap between the awareness and the action between the social media and mental health crisis. So we've done that in several different ways, and right now we're ramping up for our August campaign that we're going to be running, where people are going to be stepping off social media for a month in August. But we're also doing education, going to different schools, elementary schools, and running workshops with different organizations and schools.
And are you telling them to get rid of it, or are you telling them to set boundaries?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it starts with setting boundaries. And I say that because everyone has a different relationship with social media, and there's no blanket kind of a response that I can have to suggest what people should do moving forward. So I think it starts at the personal level with a personal reflection of, what are my intentions using these social media platforms? How do I feel when I'm using these social media platforms? And then what do I personally need out of these social media platforms so that I can tailor my usage to accommodate that? In my personal reflection, I realized I was better off without any of these platforms.
Why were you better off?
Yeah. So I felt like whenever I was using them, I was wasting my time on them, and I never felt satisfied on it, and I was doing it very mindlessly. So I'd go onto these different social media platforms and scroll. What I also started doing, or what happened when a realization that came to me when I deleted them, these platforms, and it came almost instantly, was, wow, I don't have the judgment and eyes of everyone that I've encountered throughout my life on me with life decisions that I'm making. So I started growing out my hair during quarantine, and by me
I got to
deleting.
tell you, I have a promo picture of you that looks
Yes,
so different. It's amazing. You got short
yes,
hair and a really, a beard that looks like my beard, not a
yeah.
beard that looks like your beard.
Yeah, I've definitely let all of the hair grow. I might be starting to look like a hippie, but that's, I guess, not too much of a problem. So growing up as I guess a millennial, I have people from my elementary school that were following me on these platforms, and then I had people from high school that were following me on these platforms. Fast forward to university, and I have decades of these eyes on me, and it's this subconscious pressure to be successful in the eyes of what other people deem successful. So I felt like I was starting to make decisions, and I was stressed about the appearance of myself on social media, because whatever I do is going to be reflected online. And if I don't post anything online, then that's also a reflection about who I am. So being able to delete these platforms, I started growing in my hair. I moved downtown, and normally, if I was moving downtown, getting a new apartment, I'd be posting that online. And there's a subconscious factor when you're sharing all your life decisions, that you start to take in the optics of what you're doing with other people. And when you don't have a platform to share these, you start making decisions a lot better for yourself. So that's, I guess, one of the large reasons. And the other reason is, even though I was never a big consumer of these platforms, I felt that I was addicted to them, in the sense that I didn't want to be on them. I didn't want to be spending much time on them, but I still, no matter what, found myself opening up these apps and scrolling on them. And I could say, I don't want to, I'm not going to take my phone to the washroom, and maybe that'll last a week, or I'm not going to pick up my phone when I wake up. Maybe they'll last a couple of weeks or a month, but it hooks you back in. And I found that I couldn't use these in a casual way that I'd wanted to be using them. And they were using me more than I was using them. So it was
Fascinating.
in net,
Absolutely
yeah.
fascinating. We're chatting tonight with Jake and Jordan about the Great Reset, a not-for-profit that the two of the guys saw. Sorry, not the Great Reset, the Social Reset, that got these two guys off of social media and thinking about setting boundaries for other people. We're going to take a break and come back in just a minute. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour, Saga 960. Fascinating to chat tonight with Jordan and Jake about a not-for-profit that they've co-founded and launched, called the Social Reset, which Jordan has just run through a bunch of the issues associated with, really, Jordan, addiction to social media and to some of these platforms, that you couldn't even go to the washroom without grabbing your phone and checking out what was going on. And someone joked to me the other day, I went golfing, and they said, I don't believe you went golfing because you didn't post any pictures golfing. It was almost as if, people could track me with a GPS as to what I was doing based on, the history of posting stuff about what I was doing and then not posting something meant that, was a question about whether I was actually doing it or not. It was kind of interesting. So Jake, tell me about yourself. So you told us that you actually suffered from some mental health and depression issues and anxiety issues. But then you joined this organization and you're a co-founder of it now. What was your motivation? What were your issues, and how has the Social Reset helped you?
Yeah. Great question, and thanks for having me. Thanks for having us. My struggle was in second year when I went back to university, and really I ended up taking a semester off of school, and I don't think at the time I was hyper aware of the impact that social media was having on me, but it was definitely a challenge for me to be at home in my house, with my family, while all of my friends were, off at university, living their lives and having fun. And especially when you can see everything that other people are doing, this idea of FOMO, fear of missing out, definitely didn't help what, kind of my own process of recovering and getting to a place where I was comfortable getting back to school. So I ended up taking a semester off in second year and returned to school. Became really involved with Jack.org, which is a mental health organization at Queen's. And then once I graduated, I was missing that kind of mental health advocacy part of my life. And so found out about the social reset. It was almost 7 months ago now. Found out about it through a mutual friend that Jordan and I have, and really loved the idea and have been working on it since January. And I think, Jordan really highlighted the problem that we're solving. But one thing that I think that I've found throughout this experience is that most people know that social media is addictive. They know that it doesn't really make them feel good. They might even know that social media has been proven to be a mental health risk. And I think we're going to talk about that later because it has been proven to be a mental health risk. And despite all this, they still use the platform. And for me, I'm on social media. So Jordan has deleted Instagram, but I'm still on Instagram. And despite the fact that, I co-founded this organization, I've read all the research around how social media impacts your mental health, I still find myself going down the mindless scrolling social media rabbit hole. And the fact that despite all my experience, it's still impacting me shows that this isn't a problem about education or awareness. This is a problem about helping people actually take the steps that they want to take. And so as Jordan said, we're really in place to help people kind of take that step from a desire to actually taking action, because we went out and looked and there really aren't any structured interventions in place to help people manage their social media usage. So if you want to create a healthier relationship with social media, people don't really know where to go or how to do it. So that's really what we're doing. And
Jake, what does your t-shirt say?
It says, "Put down your damn phone."
We can see the top and not the bottom. You got to talk so the camera comes to you.
Oh, it says, "Put down your damn phone."
Put down your damn phone. So supposedly when the phone beeps or shakes or rattles or rolls, you get a dopamine release. Is that what creates the addiction?
Yeah, that's right. And it's that constant refreshing. When you ever get that badge notification, it's the hope of something happened. Someone liked your message, someone followed you. There's always that hope around a social interaction that's around the corner, and that creates the impulsive checking. And whenever you refresh your feed and you see new stories on there or new posts on there, that triggers the dopamine. So it's that constant exposure to dopamine that continues to build up your dopamine tolerance. So when you're not on it, you start craving it. And that's the cycle of you picking up.
So I was told that there's this individual described another individual who posted constantly quite attractive, maybe sensual pictures of themselves on social media, that they were, quote, thirsty, unquote, for attention. Is that what it is? It's thirst for the dopamine release of attention and likes?
I think that's hard to say and throw a blanket statement across the entire social media platform. And we're not necessarily here to tackle down social media and the platforms, because there are so many benefits that come out of this. There's a global audience, there's global conversations, there's a lot of social good that happens on social media platforms, and there's a lot of inspiration and creativity. So there could be people on these platforms that are using them for good and sharing positive social messages, or using them to connect with artistic communities or like-minded individuals around hobby groups. But then there's also people that might get caught up in the kind of whole facade of what social media is, and they start chasing likes or comments and engagement on their pictures, and maybe lose touch of what they're actually trying to promote online.
So what is the social reset today? What have you guys done with this not-for-profit?
Yeah, so really it boils down to two things. talk about the first one is our educational workshop. So we run our educational workshop, and we run that in elementary schools and different organizations. And what we've seen in running these is the kind of importance of educating youth and educating people about these challenges of social media, because they're in the reception of it. We had a lot of people coming back to us and saying, wow, we're so happy. And these are grade 7, grade 8 kids that had come back to us and said, thank you for hosting this. No one's talking about this. I'm so happy that this has been identified and labeled, and mental health is being discussed with social media. So we run a very interactive workshop, and we take people through the pros of social media, then the cons and challenges of social media, and then we follow up with how to develop and cultivate a healthy relationship. So some positive tips that come out of that. What we've also done with the classes is we create a creative contract, and the class determines together the rules that they're going to impose on themselves surrounding their social media usage. So following up a week later, the class might decide, we're not going to use our phones an hour before bed. We're not going to use our phones on Sunday, or maybe, we're going to limit our app usage to 2 hours. And that's communally set by the students. So we're not coming in and imposing, phones are bad, here's what you have to do. These are ideas that the students come up with themselves. And we do a follow-up session with them. And for 45 minutes, we kind of facilitate that open dialogue amongst these grade 7, grade 8 students about what they experienced in spending time off social media, and the benefits and challenges that came out of that for them.
Jake, is this what you describe as a healthy relationship, or cultivating a healthy relationship with social media?
Yeah, I think as Jordan was saying, we're not trying to promote this message of delete social media or get off of it. To me, the definition of a healthy relationship with social media is setting boundaries on the way that you want to use social media, and following those boundaries. So if someone determines that they want to spend 2 hours a day on social media, great. Stick to those 2 hours and find a way to actually do that. So we're not here dictating how much time you should be spending on it or anything like that. We're just trying to empower people with the tools to set their own boundaries and actually stick to those boundaries.
And Jordan, do you find that this has an impact? Do people appreciate your workshops?
Yes, absolutely. So through the workshops that we've run, we've received an incredible response from them, with almost 100% response rate from the students that are participating in these workshops. They're all outstanding, glowing reviews, and we've actually posted these reviews on our website. So they're available for people to check out if they're interested in seeing what the students actually have to say. Something else we did. So the other thing we've got coming up is in August, we're running a campaign, which is a social movement. We're all going to be pledging to reduce our social media usage for the month together. And the idea is having a community provides accountability and a time for people to step off and create offline memories and get back in touch with themselves. So we wanted to validate this idea because we already knew that everyone thought they should be spending less time on social media, but people weren't doing it. So if our idea was to host a month off, would people actually participate and join? So we ran a trial back in January, and we had 31 people participate in this trial. And the response to that was really great as well. And we had people reach out to us saying, wow, this was such an impactful thing. I'm so happy that I was able to address this. I'm actually going to keep my social media permanently deleted. I've had the time to address a lot of my mental health and anxiety. So it had affected them in a great way. And I can also pull up some quick stats on what we found over the trial. So surprisingly, 63% of participants noticed a significant increase in their mood. So this is when they had deleted social media for 2 weeks. And this is what I find the most surprising. 68% of participants were spending more time connecting with friends. So you'd think stepping off social media, you're becoming less social, you're becoming less connected, and there's also this fear of missing out. They call it FOMO. What happens is when you feel like you're disconnected, it forces you to start reaching out to other people. And instead of this kind of false sense of connectivity where you saw someone post a picture and you feel like, I know what's up with this person, it forces you to pick up the phone or send them a text and say, hey, what's up? Let's call.
Or actually meeting them in real life.
Exactly. And now that the vaccines and COVIDs are opening up, that's a great time, and part of the reason why we chose August to run our campaign.
Is there websites that you can go to? Gosh, I'm talking about social media, I guess. But like, if people are interested in your topic
Yes,
and your organization, how do they find out about you, and where do they go?
absolutely. So thesocialreset.org is our website, and that contains all of the information. Then it contains the link to sign up and register for the August campaign month off. And we also do have an Instagram account, despite how ironic it is. We realize that this is the best way to share a message with an audience. And if we're able to promote a healthy message on this platform, we're using it in a responsible way. So our Instagram handle, if you want to follow us there, is the.socialreset.
Awesome. I understand there's a bunch of research that actually supports and backs up this issue that social media can, in fact, be negative for mental health. We're going to talk about that after a break. So stay with us with Jordan and Jake, the Social Reset. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. We're chatting tonight with the co-founders of an organization, a not-for-profit called the Social Reset, with Jordan and Jake. These gentlemen are really quite interesting. That Jordan has closed down his social media Instagram accounts completely. Doesn't want to know what's going on, and doesn't want anyone to know that he's grown a big beard and a lot of hair. And Jake has created some boundaries for himself. Jake, you haven't told us, but you mentioned earlier that you suffered from some mental health issues early. If you want to share any of your story, please feel free, because that might be motivated. But it's interesting that both of you think that you're better off with either less or no social media. And I understand that you think there's a bunch of research that supports this position. Tell us a little bit about that, if you could.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was quite shocking for me to start kind of delving deep into this topic and realizing that there was actually a couple of different studies that I found dating all the way back to 2018, 2019, that actually proved a link between social media usage and mental health problems. One of these studies was published in a psychiatry journal, and it found that adolescents who spend between 3 hours and 6 hours on social media every day had a 60% higher risk of mental health problems compared to those who didn't use social media at all. And for people who spent more than 6 hours on social media, this risk increased to 78%. And so, as someone who's struggled with my mental health myself, and as someone who's advocated for mental health for, at least 3 years and 3.5 years, it was quite disheartening and quite frustrating to see that there is clinical evidence and research showing that social media is a mental health risk to everyone, but largely also to my generation. And I look at my friends, we do spend a lot of social media, a lot of time on social media, but I worry a lot about high school students, middle school students who are going through, school right now and spending at least a couple of hours on social media a day. And that may seem like a lot, but on a comparative basis, I think if you were to poll, and I'm sure there's some stats around it, if you were to poll kind of younger demographics about their social media usage, 3 hours a day is not unheard of.
Really?
So it was really frustrating to me to see that, this is known to be a problem, and social media companies in some way are really exploiting young people and everyone's mental health for profit. That really frustrated me a lot. And I think there needs to be more research done, showing this link between mental health challenges and social media usage. But there's definitely something there, which is quite scary to me.
I understand that you guys have got a campaign trailer that you think might be interesting for people to take a look at.
Hopefully.
Tell us a little bit about what is this trailer? What's it about?
We think it's interesting. Jordan, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, so the trailer is a distilled message of what we're doing, and we wanted to have a video format for easy shareability to kind of describe and highlight what we're going to be doing in August. So that trailer captures that, hopefully, or that's what we designed it for.
And when did you decide to do this?
Yeah, so we created this trailer about a month ago in prep for August.
And what's going to happen in August?
August is our campaign. So people are going to be pledging to spend a month off or reducing their time on social media.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we're very excited about that. We're opening that up to everyone. So unlike our trial, we're encouraging people to sign up and participate in this. And we've got some optional resources as well that we're going to be providing for people that are participating in this August month off as well. So we've got the Center for Humane Technology, which is the foundation that produced The Social Dilemma, that's going to be coming in and doing a workshop with us. So the head of education from that. So we're very excited about that. And we've set up a bunch of different activities that we've lined out that are all optional for people to encourage people to spend time offline with their friends and going out for the month of August. And instead of sitting there scrolling on their phones, going out and making some real memories.
It's August and summertime. Well, let's see if we can share this video with everyone and what people might think about it. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
The average person spends 3.5 months a year on their phone. How do you want to spend your time? Seeing the countryside, visiting the beach, walking with an old friend, learning an instrument, going for a late night drive, trying a new restaurant, reading a book, watering your garden, building a birdhouse, adopting a kitty, falling in love, stopping and smelling the roses, being proud of how far you've come. This August, we're pledging to reduce our social media usage. Sign up with your friends and set out on our offline adventure, Social Reset. You start when the scrolling stops. Awesome. And how are you getting that word out? Via social media?
Yeah. It's a little hypocritical. Yeah, through social media, also just through conversations. We have some people on our team. There's about 8 of us. We have some ambassadors who we've been working with as well. So we have a kind of a wide network of people who have been helping us spread the word. And we're really just having conversations with friends and family to get their feedback and see if this is something that they'd be interested in participating in. And the whole idea is spend less time on social media and more time doing things that you love and enjoy. Right. That's really our message.
And so tell me about this campaign, how you're getting the word out. So you're getting it out via this campaign trailer on YouTube. You've got some mentors or sponsors. What else are you doing to get it out?
A great one would be speaking to you right now and reaching out to press. So we're currently speaking to some different newspapers and with taking our story to them. We're also very open and looking for kind of any endorsement of organizations that are looking to bring this into their company, or schools that are looking to run workshops, or any press that's looking to cover this. So I'd say at this point,
you're very focused on teenagers. Is this just an issue for teenagers, or is it for everybody?
So I'd say our target demographic is youth, and that would span between 15 to 25-year-olds. But this is something that resonates with everyone. And we decided to pick a target demographic because it helps us better curate our messaging towards them. But we're also offering this campaign for families to do this with their kids as well. So it seems that this crisis is mostly happening amongst youth, but is also, not afraid to any kind of demographic.
Jake, Jordan just called it a crisis. I want to understand, how does it actually negatively impact your mental health? You talked about anxiety. What is it? Is that, and Jake also used the FOMO, fear of missing out. What is it? Is it that you're trying to be like the most beautiful people on social media, or if you don't measure up, or if you don't have as exciting a life? Like, tell me what is it? What is it that creates the anxiety, the depression?
Yeah, that's a great question. That I think there's some information in the research that I cited that talks about it, but I think that the biggest part from my understanding, and I would need to double check this in order to ensure this is accurate, was around the comparison. So it's really, I think, self-esteem, confidence. You're constantly comparing yourself to unrealistic expectations in terms of what you should look like, how much money you should make, what you should feel, what, and those kind of things. I think that kind of constant information is really feeding people and harming their confidence and self-esteem.
Jordan, is this really that bad and something new? Or is it just like the old gossip, that used to happen just between people rather than online?
Yeah, absolutely. There's camps on every side of this issue. I think something that's frightening to me is the accessibility of this. So the fact that I can take my phone into the washroom means it's relentless. And the second that I wake up, I could be picking up my phone to the second I go to bed. In between my calls and work, I could be picking up my phone. So whereas gossip can be, harmful, it's not intruding every moment of your life. And gossip also isn't addicting in the same way that social media can be. So it's challenging. And like I said before, we don't think social media is inherently bad. It's the way it's currently set up, the way they run algorithms to kind of attract people to stay on these platforms longer so they could generate more ad revenue. And the usage of it is maybe not as intentional and distracting as
I had dinner, a little while ago with a 16-year-old teenager who I didn't think was that sort of much of a news junkie and wasn't following stuff that was going on. And we started talking about, potentially a little bit of an esoteric issue. We were talking about the attitudes toward women's rights for contraceptive and abortion in Poland. And she was unbelievably knowledgeable on the issue. And I asked her, how did you find out all about this? And she said, on TikTok. And then we started talking about the US presidential election, and she had some really definitive points of view. And I asked, how did you get all this information? She said, from TikTok.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there, as great as it is, and as much as we have this access to information nowadays, there's also a lot of misinformation that's spread out around on social media. And because there's a lot of opinionated stuff, it could stem from wherever and be unvalidated and unfact-checked. There's also something that's happens within the algorithms is these feedback loops. So the algorithms channel different news stories and feedback and opinions and kind of, I guess, content media that closely aligns with your personal beliefs. And Facebook can look at you and say, here's your profile of who you are. So this is the media that we're going to feed you. So what I type a search into Google or I search something on Facebook, my results are going to be completely different than yours. So
isn't that, if people were more progressive or left-wing, they'd buy the Toronto Star. And if they were more right-wing, they'd buy the National Post. And if they were really right-wing, they would buy the Toronto Sun. Like, isn't that the same?
Sure. Yeah. So there's a polarization that starts to happen when you only start feeding one side of the story. But then it also goes back to the misinformation that's being spread around online. And the misinformation that gets into the press is a lot more fact-checked and rigorous than some person posting their opinions on social media. So I think, and like I said, social media is not all inherently bad. There are good things to come out of it. And the access to information and education is definitely one of them, but it also comes as a double-edged sword.
So if you had some guidelines for parents or for, I thought it was great that you went into these workshops and the kids decided themselves what their own boundaries were. Give me some guidelines. If it's not zero, it's more than zero. So it's not that we're going to shut it off completely like you're suggesting in August, but it's some amount. Is there a healthy or a not healthy amount of social media per day?
We haven't come out and kind of come up with a decisive number. And I'll just say quickly that our campaign in August isn't about deleting social media. People can make their own pledges. So you can decide to delete an app, you can decide to limit your usage. So it's really flexible on the individual. Our recommendations in terms of tactics for creating a healthy social media usage is to take a step back, take a break from your phone, and ask yourself the question of how much time do you want to be spending on social media every day? So there's a lot of information, whether you have an Apple or an Android, within settings that tells you how much time you're spending on each app and what's your daily phone screen usage. If that number is a lot higher than you want it to be, then it's setting yourself, okay, how much time do I want to be spending on social media? And then creating app limits to ensure that you're actually following those times, because that will avoid you going down this void of mindless scrolling that doesn't make anyone feel good. So it's really just about setting your own limits and then actually following through on those limits and using social media the way that you want to use social media, not the way that it wants you to use social media. And there's a difference.
Jordan, a lot of people say that when you've got an addiction and you get rid of the addiction, you often replace it with another addiction. I had one person joke that actually in AA, you got rid of alcohol, but you got addicted to bad coffee and bad conversations in church basements. Who knows if it's true or not. When you got rid of social media and you got rid of the dopamine release from social media, what'd you replace it with?
So I started the Social Reset, or co-founded the Social Reset, in November. So somewhat an alignment of me stepping off social media, and it's definitely been a large time commitment. But I'm a musician. I enjoy reading, and reading before bed. It wasn't something that I did. I'd watch YouTube before bed, and picking up my guitar more often is something that I do. So I'd say I have a very healthy relationship with my reading and guitar. And I wouldn't say I'm addicted, luckily, but I think there is something to be said about reducing those dopamine hits. Makes life more enjoyable, and it kind of makes more baselines everything a lot nicer.
And as far as the time, you started reading more and playing the guitar more.
Exactly. Yep.
What about you, Jake? What are you spending your time on other than social media if you put these boundaries in place?
Yeah, reading as well. I also just like to spend time outside with my friends and family now that COVID's over, just kind of making some more time for that. And yeah, just like conversation and
I think this effort that you're doing, this campaign in August, is fantastic. I congratulate you for you. I congratulate you guys for it, and I encourage people to join in. Remind us the website that they can go to check you out.
Yeah, that's thesocialreset.org. And all of the information will be on there. And there's a big green button that says register now. It's less than a minute form, and you'll be on your way.
And Jake, the Instagram account?
At the.socialreset.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.